So I'm Sam, and this is Evgenij, who you saw in the keynote just now. We'll be talking a little bit about Dynamics 365 Copilot, and yeah, so this is the agenda that you'll see. So first we'll start with kind of just the latest developments in generative AI overall, because there's just so much going on at the moment that we think it's worth kind of recapping the stuff that's been happening, in the last even few weeks. Then we'll dive into Dynamics 365 Copilot and how that specifically works in Business Central, and then what we see happening next within Business Central. And finally, we'll finish on how you all can get started and play with it yourselves. So Evgenij, why don't you tell us what's new in generative AI?
How many of you try to use ChatGPT? Okay, we're on the same page. It's good. So there was like a very famous quote back in like 15 years ago that software will eat the world, and these days we believe AI will eat the world. OpenAI doing an amazing job to drive innovation with large language models, as you all know. Vincent showed you some of the examples, and you've seen how it can be used. And obviously for us, it's a big deal, and we want to be part of this evolution and bring those capabilities to the product. But before we just talk about that, it's really, really crazy time. Like, it's a crazy, crazy, crazy times, and it kind of reminds me back in the day when the cloud and Azure was born. You have new capabilities every 2 weeks, everything in the preview. The tools you use 1 month suddenly obsolete, and so on and so forth. So it's a huge, huge pace of development. Even if I would make this talk 1 month ago, my talk would be obsolete. So we need to catch up constantly what's going on. Back in March, OpenAI announced plugin capabilities which allow you to bring real live data to ChatGPT. So you can basically get real-time insights. It was pretty cool. And just last week, there is much more announcements. Now we can use a lot of structured way to talk to OpenAI, large language models. There's a lot of innovations going on there. Now, the race of plugins raised a lot of discussions of what those tools and apps could do. Like last month, there was like a Congress hearing, should we regulate all specific OpenAI or related features? And I think so far we're saying we're fine. And obviously, like Sam Altman, who is the CEO of OpenAI, he's just traveling for the last 5 weeks through the world, talking to the world leaders, try to promote large language models across the countries, from safety perspective, how can we trust, and so on and so forth. In Denmark, we have a number of financial institutions who basically literally ban employees to use even Bing Chat, which is a shame. They're missing out. So there's a lot of questions about trust, is your customer's data used, and so on and so forth. So we'll talk about all this today. On the Microsoft front, maybe before we even come to Microsoft. So in Microsoft, we believe we're entering this kind of era of Copilot. And what does Copilot even mean? Copilot is a pretty cool term, I think. The idea that we have like Sam, who really knows what he wants to do and achieve, or Stefan or Vincent. And then you get an assistant who can help you to deal with a lot of tasks. So Copilot is not like autopilot, you only control, but we can get a lot of creativity and help with a very basic task. I guess that's the main idea of a Copilot. And we use this terminology consistently across Microsoft and industry these days, more and more. Now, on the Microsoft front, a lot of innovations happen as well. Like last month, we had a Microsoft Build, which is like a biggest development conference on a company level. And we had like 50+ announcements all around AI. How do we build AI? What is the Azure services? How to bring it to your products on all scale. One of the most exciting announcements I found that even in Windows, which is like the biggest Microsoft canvas, if you will, they're going to bring those conversational chat experience so you can go ahead and interact with the system in a natural way. And I think it's fair to say you'll see those conversational experiences rolling out across all Microsoft products at some point. And Dynamics is also a product. So it's interesting how things will go. On a development front, tools, frameworks, we also announced a number of tools, libraries, frameworks, so you can go ahead and build AI features, which again, nothing of this even exists like 2 months ago. At least not publicly available, I should probably say. This is like a random slide I took from a build. And what's really, really cool about this slide and impressive, we start talking about frameworks and technologies. How do you bring Copilot capabilities to your products? You can go ahead and see something like AI orchestration, and we'll also show you some of that a bit. You start seeing like Copilots, and then obviously how can you plug it so it kind of works consistently across Microsoft products. Every time we talked about AI, we talk about responsible AI. So how many of you heard this term before? Responsible AI. So it sounds very fluffy, but actually it's a very serious business. It's a set of guidance and principles which we use to build, I would say design, build, and implement features to making sure that when the user uses those features, it's safe, it's straightforward, it's not misleading, and so on and so forth. And I hope by the end of this presentation, you'll see how do we apply some of those practices on practice. Now, we're going to demo you how the Copilot system works in Business Central. And before we do that, just a couple of highlights. First of all, everything you see has nothing to do to ChatGPT. Like, ChatGPT has nothing to do to what Microsoft does of what we do. Everything we build is based on Azure OpenAI services. It's an enterprise scale service, security, compliance, trust in place, geo boundaries, whatever you mean. One of the main principles of our work is something called human in a loop. It basically means that you should be very, very aware of what's going on when you interact with the system. And with that, we'll ask Sam to give us a quick overview how the system works and then show us some demos.
Yep. Yeah, thanks, Evgenij. I'm going to kind of just describe how this Copilot system works in practice, and then maybe show a quick demo of it in action. So the way the whole thing works is it starts with some kind of user prompting the whole system. And in this case, they can ask the system to suggest some new marketing text. What is kind of interesting here is that Copilot can't actually always help you. So if there's not a lot of information about this, like let's say item, then it's not going to be able to generate a whole piece of marketing text because it will just end up fabricating a lot of things, and you don't want that. If you start providing like a few facts of information about the item, then it can very easily like build a short tagline, and then as you give it like more context, more information, you'll see that it can actually start producing like whole paragraphs of text making some kind of marketing text. Once this user prompt has been sent into the system, it will do some pre-processing in the form of grounding, and that is where it will go through the whole system and gather all the facts it knows about this item. What's kind of interesting here is that it doesn't necessarily just have to go to, say, the item record. It could pull it from other sources like, I don't know, your sales statistics or like product reviews if you have some means of feeding that information into it. And another very important point is that it does reflect all the security, like permission sets, that kind of thing, and privacy settings that the admin has defined for the given user. So it will never like grab more information than the user has access to. So now, once we have all this like metadata available to us, we will go ahead and generate some prompt that we go ahead to send to the large language model. This prompt includes like all kinds of additional instructions to basically make the response quite responsible, avoiding like harmful content, trying to avoid bias, and especially like the fabrication as well.
Can you show an example about Amsterdam lamp we found?
Yeah, so in our demo data, for example, we have like the Amsterdam lamp, and its color is red. So the marketing text suggestions can sometimes get a bit too colorful with that association. So we have to tell it to like calm down. That's some fun. Like even in our own demo data, we didn't realize. What happens is the large language model will generate some piece of text, and we don't then throw it straight back to the user. We do some post-processing on it, which we also still call grounding. And it does a few extra kind of checks on it. So any kind of figures it generates, it will cross-check with the facts we provided from the grounding earlier. We also make sure that the response that was generated matches the format that was requested in the user prompt. So for example, if you've asked for a tagline and a paragraph, we check like the text, and does it look like there's a tagline and a paragraph, then good. And if not, then we discard it. And of course, we do like some kind of content moderation on it to make sure that we don't have these red Amsterdam lamps. And yeah, like I said, so if it fails these checks, we will discard the text, and then we will reprompt the model a few times, and then hopefully we get a good result. And then once we do, we send that one up back to the user. And it's kind of important here that the result that we return is still like temporary. We don't want to like commit it to a database without the user, like the human being in control. So they can go ahead, look at the text, modify it, click OK, cancel, dismiss, whatever. And yeah, so that's that. So I'll jump over and show you how this actually works in the product today. So this is just a sandbox environment I created yesterday. And we have the welcome banner here. So I can go ahead and ask it to show me the demo tools. And we've added a new tool here, which is Create with Copilot. And you'll see, this is talking about the AI-powered product descriptions. And you can go ahead and just start the tour. And what this does is it opens up the item card. And you get a little like hero tour thing that says like stop typing and start selling. And you can click next. And it will point you to this new marketing text fact box that we've created in 22. So I can say go ahead and got it. And then I can create with Copilot. And the very first time you use this capability, we will show admins this page. And basically, it means that the admin can choose whether or not they want to enable these AI capabilities for the environment. And if you go ahead and click agree, then it's now enabled. And if you click disagree, it will disable it. But the marketing text functionality will still be there. It just won't have Copilot capabilities.
Can you comment on that? So basically, if you don't like AI, if you disable it, you can still use all the features. You can still create a marketing description manually or with your vendors, still upload to a Shopify store. Just with the Copilot, you can do it faster with the help. But if you don't like it, you turn it off, and it's like back to business as it's been before.
Yeah. We're seeing it very much as like an opt-in experience. So it's up to you. Yep. So I'll go and close this, and now it's doing all the pre-processing and then prompt generation, going to the model, and then coming back with the text, checking that it looks good, and then here we have some text. And so this is the Athens desk, and in our demo data we do have a few item attributes here. So that's how it's able to generate both this tagline and description. I can't read it all here, of course, so I need to go and review it in the review page. You can see here like the attributes it's trying to include, what kind of format I want the text to be, I can be like, oh, I want to make, I don't know, the tagline bold or something like that. We actually have like more settings as well. So if, let's say, I want to really focus on the sustainability of the desk. So in the item attributes, we have the FSC certification included. So I can say, please emphasize the sustainability, and I can pick a tone of voice that ranges from, very like, formal to more like fun, upbeat, creative style language. So you can try and pick something that matches your brand. So I'll just go for creative, because then you get the best results. And so I can either go ahead and create a draft, and that will delete what's been generated so far, or I can actually choose to append it to what you have. So for example, if you were just generating the tagline, and then you wanted to add a paragraph later, you can do that kind of thing. But anyway, I'll just replace it and hit create draft, and then hopefully we get some more text. Yeah, so we've got some new tagline here and a paragraph, and you can decide that you don't like it, and then you can always like undo and go back, that kind of thing. So we'll just keep what this was, and I'll click OK. And now the marketing text has been persisted in the database, and I don't have the Shopify integration set up here on this environment, but if I did, I could then go ahead and publish it straight to my Shopify store or use it with some other integration here. Yeah.
How do we know that maybe, what if I'm a user, I try to use it, and I don't satisfied with the quality of those texts I get back?
Yes,
what do you do?
Yes, very important. So in this edit dialog, at the very bottom, we have these like thumbs up, thumbs down things. So if you are not happy with the value that's been generated or you like it, please do send us that signal. It just emits a telemetry signal to us that the generation was good, and we'll be using that to kind of tweak this like meta prompt that we use to improve that in the future. Something else very important I want to mention is that we're not using any of this business data to retrain the model. It's purely supplemented as part of the grounding for that individual prompt to the language model. So it's not like persisted to retrain. Cool. Yeah, I'll jump back to slides. Yeah, so it's ready for you to all try out in production and sandbox environments in any BC localization in the latest update. There are a few caveats here. So it's only supported in English languages at the moment. So if you're using a localization which is not in English by default, you can go in your user settings and change it to English, and then the Copilot stuff should light up. Yeah, as I mentioned, the admin consent is required the very first time you use the integration. If you want to change your mind later on, you can go to the privacy notices page, and then you can reject the integration there. Yeah, and I also mentioned the marketing text feature works with the Copilot integration disabled, but then you just have like a text box where you can put text, and you need to be creative yourself. If you're upgrading from an earlier environment, it's controlled by a feature key, so you'll need to turn it on in the feature management page, so please do that.
Maybe I want to have a quick comment about languages, because the first question we'll get after the session, can I use it in my language, German, Danish, Dutch, Ukrainian, whatever? And the answer is, like, especially you can say, I tried ChatGPT or I tried Bing Chat, I can. The truth is that English languages is the only officially supported languages for OpenAI, the models we're using. So as more languages will be rolled out officially, we'll be able to bring it to you as well. So it's not like it's an engineering challenge. It's more like it's still in preview. So we start with English, and more languages will follow, hopefully soon.
Yeah, we really, like, as soon as the tech's available, we'll push it out. So that's the dream. And speaking of dreams, Evgenij, how do you see our vision for AI in the future?
Yeah, so another interesting quote people start saying now, and not like English-speaking people, but basically saying the way how you start interacting with the systems is basically in your natural language, which become like a next programming language, so to speak, is the way how you express what you want to achieve, get results, and so on and so forth. We show you this vision early today. I just show you this slide again for a reference. We believe we have a lot of capabilities to offer within the product, and obviously that's where you as a community come first, with your extensions, with your value proposition, and so on and so forth. Then you have more like a conversational circle, which is more like probably on Microsoft, on us to build first. You saw how it's coming to Windows, so it's kind of on us, and then we can have discussion how we bring your capabilities there. And finally, it's being connected to the whole world. So you can maybe go to Bing Chat and start asking, give me sales order from Business Central. You should be able to go to our find the system, retrieve data, and you can do some magical things like that. However, we need to start somewhere. Right now, if you would ask me, hey, how can I basically extend or reuse whatever you guys build out of the core product? I will probably tell you, we don't really have anything out of the box. However, we just announced early today that we do give you samples, starting toolkits, so you can go ahead and experiment with your generative AI features. And the idea is that it should be super straightforward, like, should be like no big deal or drama, should give you no excuse not to start. I guess that will be the right statement. Those announcements went live on AL Home. We recommend you use our great development tools so you kind of get updated on what we do and how things are evolving. And with that, let's take a look at those tools and see what you could build or what we could build with that for a product going forward.
Yeah, so I'll just jump over back to my screen. So yeah, I have Visual Studio Code open here with AL Home, and it should all be popping up for you with the latest developer news that we just posted, announcing this quick start extension that you can use. Within the help itself, you'll see that there is a link, an AKA MS link, that will take you straight to the repo, and there's a little README to help get started. But I thought it would be fun to just jump into what the sample's doing and how it works, and then show you it in action. So what it ships with by default is this page extension on the item card, which adds a new page action, which is called suggest item category. And what that does is it will suggest an item category for an item based on its description. So it's like a kind of hello world level example. So you'll see in the action, the action trigger, it goes ahead and calls this magical procedure called suggest item category, and that returns a suggested item category. Then we get it, and we build some kind of confirmation message, and then show to the user this confirmation dialog, because it's very important that we don't just automatically update business data. We should make sure the user is okay with the changes that we make. So if they say no, we bail out, and if they say yes, we go ahead and update the rec. So what does suggest item category actually do? So if I just scroll down, it goes ahead and builds a list of the item categories that exist in the system. So that's kind of, you can think of that as the grounding for the pre-processing, where we pull all the item categories and build a list in a string. And then we go ahead and call this Azure OpenAI generate completion helper. So that will go to the Azure OpenAI service and call the completions endpoint with a prompt and the number of tokens it can use and a temperature value. I'll describe those in a second. But the way you can think of the completions, in case you're not aware, is you give it a piece of text, and then it will autocomplete the remainder of that sentence. So in this case, we have provided some kind of prompt up here, which is given a list of item categories, pick one that would suit an item with the name whatever. Here are the item categories, and then here is the selected category. And you'll see there's no placeholder here. We've just kind of stopped the sentence mid-sentence, and then the completion endpoint will just complete it with the suggested category. So it's like a pretty simple example. So then we get this category back from the model, and we will go ahead and then pass that into validate category. And all that does is it makes sure that this item category code exists. And if it doesn't, it will throw an error and bail out. But if it does, then it's good, and we can exit the procedure, and hopefully we have a good suggestion. So I'll go ahead and publish this. This is always testing the Wi-Fi. I need to log in. That's always good as well. Should be publishing now. Oops. Yeah, and I forgot to update the default page, of course. So I'll just jump over to the items. And so in the Athens desk, we normally do have an item category code in the demo data, but in this case, I've already deleted it. And you can see we have this new action here, suggest item category. So you can go ahead and click that. And yeah, exactly. It pulls all the item categories that are in the system, builds the prompt, sends it to Azure OpenAI. It returns desk, and then we validate that that is a valid one. And now we show this confirmation dialog, like, is this the one you want? And desk makes sense for Athens desk. And just to kind of show it's not like hard-coded, we can, I don't know, take the beans, and yeah, so we have some roasted beans, and again, if I ask it to suggest, it says like, oh, okay, the item category of beans probably makes sense for it. So great, that's good. And like, of course, you could build your own kind of matching logic with like regexes and other kind of horrifying code. And it'll take like a lot more time, but here, I just write my instruction in a simple label, and now I can get these kind of processes back like much faster.
Can you double down this statement? So how would you build this kind of defaulting before? Like, what would you do?
Yeah, regexes would be the way to go, right? Or,
yeah. So how to figure out examples, regex, kind of parsing, partial, git suggestion. Doable for sure, takes time, code. And here is more like just one expression in your natural language. Given the categories and this product, please give me the best match. 1, 2, 3. You get it back to the user. Just easy to code, works.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So it depends a lot on the quality of prompt, of course. But yeah, when it works, it's pretty good. Yeah. All right. So I'll jump back to the slides. So that's kind of what we ship with the sample by default. But here's another kind of fun example. Is something you might want to do is extract information from emails, which again is some kind of like horrifying problem to try and solve with regexes and other kind of stuff. But like is a trivial task with these large language models now. So in this case, yeah, we have an example email. And then we have some kind of prompt here that says like, analyze the above text, get all the information out of it, and give me a JSON object while you're at it. And just for fun, I like threw that together using the sample. I just added a new page. Maybe if you were keen, you noticed it appeared. So all this does is it's just a new page. It has a field that has some kind of message content. It's very simple. And then an action. Also very simple, just goes to the completions endpoint with some prompt and the message content. And the prompt is pretty much what you saw in the slide. It's like analyze the message, get the information about it, give it to me as a product description and quantity in JSON format. Here's the message, here's the item information. So if I go back here, and hopefully I find the page. Yeah, so we have the text here, and I can go ahead and extract the information, and just like that, I now have a lovely JSON that I can parse and do whatever with. So that's pretty cool. So now for fun, I can go ahead and again modify. I don't know, get some charges as well. I'll say some charges. We'll see what it does. And so it's all about the quality of the prompt that you're putting in. And so with the AI Home post, we've also going to be putting out a blog post, and in there we'll have a bunch of resources there, so you can go and learn more about like the prompt engineering side of stuff, because that is like super critical to nail. And this is just the first prompt I put in my mind, and yeah, so you can play with it in nail very easily. If you get the Azure OpenAI key, there's also a playground in there, so you can like very quickly iterate on your prompt and see how that all goes. So definitely like look into the prompt engineering.
Let's stay here for a second. So if you're not impressed so far, you better should. Like based on this like a free text, it has like extra keyboard, extra mean one, which is kind of obvious but super hard to engineer and develop. We talk about some power plugs somewhere late in the conversation, unrelated to initial statement. We could detect that. So the ability to extract data with kind of small prompt is unparalleled compared to how would you have to code to get results even closer to that. That's why we think it's kind of pretty impressive.
Yeah. So like in this case, for example, you would improve the prompt by saying, make sure the quantity is always a numerical value, or things like that. You can also, what's very powerful, is give a few examples beforehand, and that's called a few-shot prompt. And then that you can really steer the model towards the structured format that you're wanting. So I'll jump back to the slides. So yeah, Evgenij, I'll hand back to you.
Yeah, like, I'll just show you a couple of examples. Think about, you need to write a logic to find duplicates. You'll say, given us these fields, some kind of fields, try to parse a database, give comparisons, give me some suggestion which I can merge. I think about every time you have the default value, extract, merge, match. Like, large language models give you a lot of capabilities for us and for you to bring to the products with very, like, not like small, but some effort. Uncomparable, I guess, what it took to build before. So we wanted to get started on the journey, and the easiest way you can do is start using Copilots. And the easiest way to do is to use Bing Copilot or Bing Chat. I use it every day, how to get to Antwerp, how to order the beer, what is the average price. It just works great. We show you GitHub Copilot for development tools. We're not talking about it right now, but it's a great capabilities. If you notice, every time we speak, there is like a live translation happening on screen. It's another AI feature. We just come into PowerPoint, which be able to analyze voice-to-speech in a real time, which is pretty cool. That's why we enable it for this session. And finally, we want you to get this Open Azure AI key. It's like a small secret statement before you can get started using those features. If you think about our roadmap, or what we officially communicate to you, there is a section about future of AI for next wave, or for this wave. Basically, if we are in fall, Microsoft said, we get more stuff for you, you can get started, more features, more capabilities, and so on and so forth. So we're actively working to bring even more intelligence, and I wish we could share more, but we want to save our employment, so we wait until August to share more with you what's going on. We have a conversation on Yammer. There is no real excuse why you shouldn't go ahead and join the conversation. People share examples, like ideas flying around. We're not out of ideas or inspiration. Just go ahead and join the conversation. So help us to build what we prioritize and build next to the product. And with that, I guess we'll have some time for Q&A to wrap the session. Yeah, we have some links, but we'll skip it for now. Yeah, let's have a open Q&A. We have around 12 minutes to talk about this topic. Yes, sir.
I'll give you.
Environment, and the other thing is, as a developer, to play around with it in your Docker environment.
Yeah. So the question was, how can I get access to this key practically as a developer to start experimenting? And with that, maybe would you mind to share our blog post and just show the content of the article we wrote?
Yeah.
We need to project second screen.
Yeah. No, I'll just, I don't have the link to the blog post, but in AL Home at least. This one. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We don't have it in the current documentation. We have a blog post coming. We hope it was this morning. It didn't. You need to get a key. Today, you need to basically go ahead to Azure OpenAI, actually get a key. The first link you click, you fill out the form, and you'll be able to get this key very, very soon. So you have a development Azure subscription, and you can get to that. So there's a process. It's still whitelisted because whole world is running for this gold resources, to be honest. It's like a crazy. It's like you have an OpenAI, and they have dragons and dragons and dragons, and you need to pass all that to get, because it's like a whole world try to get this resource. But you can go ahead and add a key for Azure OpenAI services. Is it paid? It's a good question.
Yes, so you, when you're calling the Azure OpenAI service, they charge you based on the tokens in your prompt, and then the number of tokens that get generated. Off the top of my head, GPT 3.5, which is the text Divinity 3 model, I think it's 2 cents per 1,000 tokens, and you can think of a token as what is it, 1.3? If you take the number of words in a prompt, multiply it by 1.3, that's like a very rough approximation to the number of tokens that will be.
maybe to talk about this question. So it's free to get a key, but when you start using open Azure models, you pay for consumption back and forth. The Microsoft pricing is the same pricing as OpenAI due to our unique partnership. Those prices tend to get reduced week over week. Last week we announced that GTP 3.5 Turbo goes like, I don't know, 25.
So it's a tenth of the price.
Tenth of the price, which is make it more affordable. Yeah, so you need to pay for that. As of preview, all Microsoft products, not only Business Central, all Microsoft products give you a Copilot for free. One more time. All the features we show you with AI, you get it for free as a users and customers. You don't need to pay for that. It might change in the future, but we'll figure out. Right now, like Microsoft want you to use AI on scale, so it's in our interest you have access, which is free. Another observation, which is like not intuitive, but when we released this feature back in March, it was really hard to get to OpenAI, even to Bing Chat. However, with Business Central, every customer, every sandbox basically could experience generative AI free of charge, which is pretty impressive, and we're very proud as a team to deliver that. Let's take another question. Yes, sir.
If you throw it.
I don't know if it's working because I didn't hear his voice. Do I? Yeah. It's just a simple question. I missed something maybe, but is this cloud only or on-prem?
So the sample we published, that will work in both on-prem, so for local development as well, and in the sandbox as you saw me publish. The marketing text feature also works on-prem, but the Copilot-powered suggestions is cloud only.
So I think it's a great question for every feature we're going to show you today. The first question, is it in cloud or is it on-prem? And the default will be answer, it's in cloud by default. You want to grow a cloud business, it just makes sense, but we're not really doing any artificial, how do you say, like a restrictions to make sure it's not possible on on-prem. That's not a game way in at all. Cool. Yes, sir.
I have a small technical question. The icon that you showed on the action, which is called sparkling something, when I tried some weeks ago to put that, it didn't show this nice image. Is it like a platform support now?
Yeah, so in 22.0 it should work. It should show up. It's not been added to the compiler yet, so you still do get a warning. But yeah, if you publish, it should just appear. Yeah, and we have two. So there's Sparkle, which is the. Let me just go back. I'll jump. Yeah. So there's Sparkle filled, which is this one here, and then on the item card there's just Sparkle, which is the not filled variant.
So the question was, if you build your AI features, how can you make look and feel the same? You can build the same iconography, the same icon. We're not giving you today the way to make a flare or shining. Actually, it's very unique to Business Central. Before that, you haven't seen that level of love or craft, I would say. It's kind of very, looks very nice. Again, as you're thinking how the platform look like, most likely we won't have the same experience. So not now, but maybe soon, very soon.
Yeah, we'll try and get some like UX guidelines out as well for when you use it.
Sorry, I have one more question. For the marketing text, the prompt is hidden somewhere on the Azure vault. So are you going to like somehow expose that so we can learn from that?
Yeah. So just to repeat the question. So right now we're pulling the prompt for the marketing text out of Key Vault, and we're like dynamically constructing it. We've basically done that so we can, update the prompt quite easily. Maybe at some point we can take a look if we can share it.
I think also it's fair to say that Microsoft treats all the prompt as some kind of IP for now, so it's kind of hidden for a purpose as well. You can argue, is it so hidden? Is it so essential? We put a lot of work through research how to put meta prompt. So your suggestion deal with a bias in languages. Good luck with that to figure out how to do it effectively. I also deal with a bias in harmful content. So right now it's hidden for you. It's probably a year from now, it'll be probably like a more common knowledge.
Yeah.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Hello, guys. That was quite impressive. Just a quick question. What are the limitations of the AI? So, for example, for the subcategories, you showed us that actually gets all the categories. We send it there, and then we get a suggestion. Can we add, 3, 4? Basically, what are the limits? How far we can go with this?
Yeah. So it all, I can take it. So it all depends on the model that you've picked, and they've all got different limitations. But at a high level, there's a certain number of tokens you can pass in, and a certain number of tokens the model can generate in a single call. So the tokens you can pass in, that's kind of all the context that you can give. And so this was kind of a simple example where we're just building a list of them all and then feeding them in. But what if you have like 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, then you're going to hit this context limit, and it's not going to perform so well. So there are other endpoints on the model you can call with larger data sets that I would recommend looking at. One of them is called the embeddings endpoint. And basically what this does is you can feed it data, and that will generate vectors based off of this data. And then you can send your prompt against these vectors, and it will tell you like closest match and that kind of thing, so that you can feed in a ton of data. Yeah.
So we do have the option to choose the model.
Yeah.
So in the code, because it seems like very simple what you.
The large language models give you framework and APIs to feed a lot of data, terabytes of data, and then work over it. So it's not Microsoft invention. It's not like BC integration. It's just APIs are there, which you can consume to build more complex scenarios.
Yeah. So when you get your Azure OpenAI access, you basically pick which model you would like to deploy. So you can deploy like the DaVinci model we're using here, or you could go ahead and go for the Turbo model, which is more suited for like chat-based interactions, or even GPT-4, which has a much larger like input with the number of tokens you can put in.
Another kind of interesting question. So you heard of this GTP 3, 3.5, 4, 5, 6 tomorrow. The higher number doesn't mean it's better. It means it's different. It's very unintuitive, but one more time. The higher number, it means it's different, but not necessarily better. So if you'll take a prompt, like we just built with marketing description, and send against model, let's say 3.5, we get some response back. If you'll use the same prompt against 4.0 model, we can get completely different results back. And then we need to work with that structure. So they're very, very different. So all prompt engineering are very targeted per model, and model usually mean capabilities, price, response time. So just want you to know, number not necessarily mean better, it just means different. Usually better, but usually it's just very different.
Yeah. I would recommend when you're like experimenting with like which model to use and stuff, start with the latest, and then when you're happy with the results there, you can go ahead and look at the earlier models, and the token cost might be lower then as well, so you can get some cost savings that way.
So can we also train the model, or everything what we send to the model will automatically use to train it?
Yes, so with the Azure OpenAI, with the completions endpoint, that one is not using the data for retraining. It's purely in that single request, using that to kind of seed the model, and that will then produce the result. There are means to like fine-tune the models, but they're like way more expensive, and like I wouldn't recommend going down that path. I would recommend seeing like if you can get your whole problem in the prompt and then getting the value out, because that's the cheapest way to do it.
So there is no way, for example, to train the model?
So you can, there's like a different deployment, which is a fine-tuned model, and then you need to pay for like compute time and stuff to retrain it.
So you have Azure capabilities, but we don't expose any integration to do it for now.
Yeah. yeah, I wouldn't recommend going that way.
We have 50 seconds left before next session, and we need to change laptops a bit.
Yeah.
So if you have more questions about OpenAI, find us in a Microsoft booth.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time, and we'll just switch for another topic.
Cool, thanks.